and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Today I am going to be talking all about mental health, and I do want to put out a trigger warning right now that if talking about suicide, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, anything like that triggers you, please click off this video and go find something else and then come back for my regular content. I actually got a DM on Instagram from one of you guys saying you thought it would be really helpful if I did a mental health Q&A or sat down and gave some advice on mental health. Now, obviously, keep in mind, I am not a doctor, I am not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. So everything that I mention is purely just my advice and things that I've dealt with. If you guys have other tips for people, definitely leave them in the comments down below. And with this video, please be nice in the comments, especially if someone else opens up. And after receiving this DM, it led me to want to ask you guys if you had questions or anything you needed advice on. And I told you guys you could send them to me through the questions option on Instagram, and a bunch of you did. However, there were also a ton of you who said that even though I am keeping usernames confidential, that you felt insecure about submitting anything for the simple fact that I would know your username. And I want you guys to know that I would never judge you for anything that you say or need advice on or anything like that. My DMs are always open if you need help or advice or someone to talk to. Something I am really passionate about is mental health awareness and suicide awareness, which I will talk more about in this video. So never be afraid to reach out. I really want to find a platform where you guys can send me anonymous messages and stuff if you are in need of advice or anything like that when it comes to really tough topics like this one. If any of you know of something or have any ideas, definitely let me know, because I'd love to do another one of these. Out of my 500 plus followers, I did only receive 8 messages. And again, I will be keeping all usernames confidential, and there is no judgment towards any of these people whatsoever. And now that I've gone on long enough, let's get into the video. So obviously I look completely different than in the clips you just saw. First off, we're going to ignore that I am swollen and bruised. No, I did not get in a fight. I actually had my wisdom teeth out. I actually have an entire video on my experience, as well as a vlog of my recovery that I will link down below. And the reason I want to jump in here and talk about something is because if you guys have not seen or heard about what happened to Landon Clifford, who is Cameron Clifford's husband, I did want to just come on here and tell you guys that this video was pre-filmed, which is why I did not touch upon the topic in the video. If this video had been filmed after what had occurred, I definitely would have talked about it in the video. If you don't know who those people are by name, it is Cam and Fam here on YouTube. Cameron is a 19-year-old mother to a newborn, as well as a 2-year-old, and she had her first daughter when she was 16. Last year, she and Landon got married. He is the father of both of the girls. Back in May, after she had her second baby, Delilah, she experienced postpartum depression, and she did take quite a hiatus from YouTube to work on herself. During that time period, her husband Landon was also struggling. He was someone who internalized most of what was going on, and Cameron did absolutely everything she possibly could to help him. And unfortunately, Landon did pass away from the effects of a suicide attempt. If you have not seen Cameron's full video on it, definitely go check it out. I will have it linked below. Definitely go over there and follow her. Subscribe to her channel, follow her on Instagram, show her all your love and support. As always, never be afraid to reach out. My DMs are always open, and I absolutely mean that. I am actually a field advocate for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I am on a mission to help them end the stigma around mental health. Suicide, anxiety, depression, and stuff like that should be a topic everyone feels comfortable talking about openly. And if we lived in a world where it was more acceptable to talk about, there would be a lot less issues in our world in terms of our suicide rates. Seeking out help for mental health reasons takes a lot of strength, and if you are someone who reaches out for help, you should be pretty dang proud of yourself, and let me tell you, I'm proud of you. And that is pretty much all I have to say for right now. I just thought it was important for me to come on here before uploading this video to sit down and talk with you guys for a minute. And now we're gonna get back into the video. I do have all the questions here on my phone, so if you see me looking down and reading, it is because I am reading the questions. And the first question is, does seeking help for depression or anxiety make you weak? And the answer to that is 100% not. Admitting admitting you have a problem or seeking help or seeking treatment for anything, whether it's some sort of addiction, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, an eating disorder, or anything like that, does not make you weak. In my opinion, I think it makes you strong and shows how strong and determined you are to get your life back. I know exactly how this person who asked this question feels, because way back when I was a lot younger, I was super scared to go to the doctor and get help for anxiety and OCD and depression and anything like that, because I was afraid of the stigma and if people found out. I was diagnosed with ADHD in first grade, which I actually have an entire video on what it's like to have ADHD that I will leave in the description box for you guys. It's a really good video, and I talk a lot about being put on medication and the stigma around it and how I felt and how I was singled out. I have had ADHD for 20 years now. I was diagnosed when I was in first grade, and my teacher was originally the one to bring it up to my mom and was like, hey, I definitely think she needs to be tested for ADHD, and sure enough, I have major ADHD. I will be the first to admit it. And having ADHD, you get labeled and everyone gives it a negative connotation, which is so wrong in my opinion, because ADHD is simply something I have. ADHD is not what I am, and it does not define me as a person. It is just a part of my life and something I have to deal with. I've been on medication for it since first grade. I am one of those people who cannot function without my medication. A lot of people assume that my mom was really quick to, put a first grader on a stimulant, and that was not the case. I literally could not function without medication, and I still cannot function without medication. I am 25 now, and on days where I forget my medication, it's like a living hell, to be honest. My brain is absolutely everywhere. I can't think straight. I can't do anything without being here, there, and everywhere. My brain gets really scrambled, and so much more. Getting back to this question, I too was in this same exact person's place, because having that label of ADHD made me not want to go get help for all my other problems as I got older. It wasn't until the past 5 to 7 years that I actually went and was seeking treatment and knew I needed help and stuff like that. So in a short answer to this question, no, seeking help or admitting you have a problem does not make you weak whatsoever. I personally think it makes you a stronger person for recognizing that you have something wrong and that you are seeking help for it and want help for it. Question 2 is, are the side effects of psychiatric medications worth taking? And for me, the answer is yes. And the reason I say yes is because no matter what type of medication you are taking, it's going to have side effects. But the thing is, legally, these companies have to list all these side effects, and a lot of the side effects that they mention are side effects only a few that people have. Everyone's different, and not everyone's going to have any side effects. The only time I've had bad side effects with medications were 3 different medications. Also, most of the symptoms that you may experience as side effects to these medications are side effects you may have with other medications such as Tylenol. A lot of the common side effects are dizziness, being lightheaded, getting a headache, having trouble sleeping, and stuff like that. Sometimes all it takes is finding the right medication for you. The first medication you try may not be the one for you. I have tried so many different medications, and it wasn't until recently that I found the right medications for me that work for me the best. Question 3 is, does having a psychiatric diagnosis label me as being crazy? The answer to that is no. 99% of people at some point in their life experience psychiatric issues, whether it is anxiety, depression, OCD, an eating disorder, addiction, ADHD, anything like that. And it is honestly completely normal. It is just part of being human, and society is what has made it not normal and make it seem like it's a scary thing and that you have to be labeled because of this. And that is 100% not the case. The stigma around mental health needs to end, and people need to realize that having a psychiatric problem doesn't make you any different. It just means your body is struggling with something, and these struggles are completely out of your control, which is something that makes me really angry about people who stereotype people, because it is not something that those of us who have diagnoses can control. I don't have control over my ADHD. I don't have control over my OCD. Depression isn't something I volunteered for. Anxiety wasn't something I signed up for. It is just something that I have, and people shouldn't make that a defining characteristic of someone. So no, you are not crazy. Question 4 is, what do I do if my parents tell me I am fine, but I know I'm not? I personally would definitely reach out to someone else if you have the ability to. If you are still in school, definitely reach out to an advisor or a school counselor. Oftentimes, parents have a hard time admitting their child has a disorder because everyone wants a perfect child and doesn't want to admit their child has issues. And again, that goes along with the stigma around mental health. So if your parents tell you you're fine and you know you're not, do not brush it off as, yeah, my parents said I'm fine, so I'm fine, because that's just going to make everything worse. So like I said, if you're still in school, I highly recommend reaching out to a teacher you trust, a guidance counselor, or even an advisor, and tell them your situation, tell them what's going on, because sometimes for parents to realize there is something going on, they need to hear it from an outside perspective. Obviously, if you're not in school, you are most likely over the age of 18. Don't brush it off. Go to your doctor and tell them what's going on. If you are an adult and you're scared about it, tell a good friend or someone else that you have a lot of trust in. If you are someone who is homeschooled, maybe try calling a friend or a friend's parents who you trust if your parents aren't listening. Question 5 is, have you personally ever had to deal with the topic of suicide? The answer to that is yes, unfortunately. I have lost a few people in my life to suicide, and because of all of this, I've actually become a field advocate for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which basically means I get to work alongside legislators and help implement new acts and bills and laws into our state to make a difference. And it's also a way for me to get my voice out there about what I think needs to change in our world in terms of mental health and ending the stigma. I actually, for the past 4 years, have participated in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Out of the Darkness Walk. You guys may even have those in your area and just have never heard of them before, but basically they are walks where you get together with a ton of people and go on a walk to raise awareness about suicide, and you raise money. This year, I actually raised over $300 within the first 48 hours of collecting donations, and I am on a mission to reach $500, and I am hoping that I can reach that goal. And the 6th question is related to the last one, and it is, what motivated you into becoming an advocate for mental health? And for me, it is simply because I struggle with mental health myself, and I am really tired of the stigma surrounding mental health because people label you as having an issue or being crazy because you have a psychiatric disorder. And the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, psychiatric disorders are not something that we have control over. It is our brains being in control of us, and what we have going on is not something we can help or fix. It's not something where a fairy godmother can wave her wand and you're magically okay, or if you take this medication, you're gonna be absolutely fine. No matter what, we may always have these struggles, and a lot of the times people do not reach out for help, or help gets to them too late, for the simple fact that there is such a negative connotation and negative stigma around mental health. And I really want to be part of the change, and I want to have my voice be heard on all this, because if it was something that was more widely talked about in today's society and wasn't looked at as a taboo subject, the world would be a better place. We should live in a world where we can freely talk about what's going on in our brains without being labeled as crazy or being told we're fine or anything like that. Question 7 is also related to the previous two, and it is, what can I do to get more involved with raising awareness about suicide? And both of these are things I just talked about, but one, you can become a field advocate, and another is to participate in things around you that have to deal with mental health awareness. And another great one is simply talking about these mental health issues and being open about them. The more that we talk about these types of issues, the more people will get comfortable about talking about them, because so many things can be prevented and fixed if we were in a world where we could openly talk about the thoughts going through our brains and things that we are dealing with. I lost a really close friend to suicide a few years ago, and it was as simple as, if she had been able to talk to her parents about what was going on in her head, she may still be here today, but she grew up in a family that assumed she was fine and would not admit that she needed help and was struggling, and she did everything in her power and she did everything right to get help, but it was too late. So if you are a parent who's watching this, I highly recommend checking out an article that I will link down below, and it's called The Suicide Talk, and it is an article that goes through and talks about why you should be talking to your kids about suicide and mental health, and it's a great resource as well. Also, if you're a parent, by openly talking about these subjects with your kids, they will be more apt to come to you and feel comfortable that they can come to you about things that they may be dealing with in their heads if they know that you are open to talking about it. And the last question is, do you have any coping skills you would recommend for dealing with stress and anxiety? And the answer to that is yes. I actually have an entire video that I will leave down below all about fidget toys. I am a huge believer in fidget toys. I think they are great for anxiety and stress. Another thing I am really big on is coloring when you are stressed or have anxiety. I find coloring very calming in something as simple as an adult coloring book or even a children's coloring book, because it is something in front of you that you physically are working on that will help distract your mind from everything going on. And I just know for me personally, it is a great way to de-stress. I also think things such as going for a walk to clear your mind is great, or even just calling a friend and talking about what's going on is a great thing as well. And if any of you who are watching this have any other ideas or coping skills that you have found work really well, definitely leave them in the comments for others to read and hopefully be able to use. So that is all I have to say about mental health awareness. Like I said, I really want to do another one of these where you guys can anonymously submit things, because I definitely think a lot of you would submit things if it were all 100% anonymous. If you agree that that is a good idea, let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments as well. If you guys liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and encourage others in the comments section to practice self-care, be there for one another, and put an end to the stigma on mental health. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I do upload content regularly and would love it if you'd become part of our little family. Also, be sure to hit the bell so that you are in fact notified every time I do upload a new video. I really hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!